And then, of course, they go, well, if you're gaining weight, you just need to eat less and exercise more. And I remember this one doctor, I literally left, like, bawling. I wanted to punch him in the freaking face. Then, like, I can tell you everything I've been eating for the last 2 years. Like, it's documented, it's weighed, it's measured, and I bet it's cleaner than anything you've ever had in your life. And you're telling me to eat less and exercise more? I'm like, how many more hours a day can I exercise? I got to have a life.
Welcome to the Calorie Conundrum Podcast with Coach Strick. Join us as we expand the weight loss conversation to beyond just calories and dare to ask the question, why does eating less and exercising more sometimes not produce the desired results? Here's Coach Strick to discuss this Calorie Conundrum.
Well, hello everyone, this is Coach Strick, and today we dive into the podcast archives and pull out an absolute gem. On today's podcast, I sit down with Danny Johnson of DannyJ.com. Danny started in fitness and was the founder of the SweatyBetties.com, an online fitness community, but today finds herself working as a business and life coach, helping others achieve their dreams. In this episode, Danny shares her experiences with weight loss, and her story is a perfect example of why I created this podcast. I know there are many other people that are suffering in the same way Danny did, and I hope this episode can help you. Listen, and let me know if you have a similar story.
Strick, and today I'm here with Danny Johnson. Danny Johnson has a master's degree in health promotion and exercise science and holds numerous certifications for personal training. Danny is also the owner of SweatyBetties.com, an irreverent group of women who are looking to get fit and have a whole lot of fun along the way. But the reason why I've invited Danny on today is because she claims that the SweatyBetties.com has grown since 2011 because her fans love to listen to someone who isn't afraid to put some diet and exercise-ness on blast. Danny, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yep, thanks for being here. Danny, before we get into your story, what is a Sweaty Betty?
Oh, goodness. Well, a Sweaty Betty, I guess, is, it's so funny. We kind of came up with this name just because it was, it was catchy. It was catchy. But I think the Sweaty Betties in general, like the girls and the women that follow the page, they are sassy, they're fun, they don't take life too seriously, and I think that's the biggest thing about, being a Sweaty Betty. The motto is, don't be a bitch. And it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like, it's supposed to be funny. It kind of started as a joke with my friend and I. You're working out hard and you just want to quit. We're like, don't be a bitch. But it also turned into this supportive community. And I think women should really support each other and uplift each other. And that's part of being a Sweaty Betty, too.
All right. Well, I heard your story about your fitness competing on another summit, and I thought it was really inspiring. So I had to have you on my call and interview you. Could you tell us a little bit about your background as far as fitness competing goes?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so, before Sweaty Betties, like my pre-Sweaty Betties life, I was personal trainer. I still do that. But I really, really wanted to get in the fitness industry. I'd see people like Jamie Eason and Amanda Latone, girls, and I wanted to be part of that industry. So I started going to the expos and to the shows. And I thought, what, I want to do that. I wanted to look like those girls. I wanted to be on oxygen, and I wanted to just, be the face of fitness. And one of the reasons was I thought it would just inspire people. I had been paralyzed in 2003, and so I started to get in better shape and walking again. And so it was like this, after I got out of being able to walk, it was like I wanted to put all these challenges in front of myself, because when you're sitting in a hospital bed and you can't walk, the only thing you want to do is walk. And so once I was able to, I'm like, I'm not stopping there. I'm going to keep going. So I ran a marathon, and I just want to keep pushing myself, because I'm like, man, you never know when something like that is going to be taken away from you. So I was just taking advantage of everything I could physically. I was going to do it. And so I set out this goal to compete. I did that. And I thought it was fun. And, of course, I'm a competitive person, and I didn't win. And so then I'm like, well, now I'm going to compete to win, and I want to become a pro. And so I started competing for a couple of years. I did figure at the beginning, And then my last year of shows, they started doing bikini, and I decided to go ahead and try that for a couple of shows. But, competing was something that I got a lot out of it in the fact that I had to be very disciplined. I had to follow a really strict diet. I had to be really on point with everything I did, everything I ate, all my exercise. I mean, it was very, very meticulous. And I remember getting comments from people. They were like, oh, you're so crazy, and I could never do that. And that was like something in me thought, yeah, I'm doing something that most people can't do. Like, this is really impressive. And thinking back now, I think some people actually did think I was crazy. They weren't impressed. They just really thought I was crazy. But at the time, I took it all as compliments, even though now I'm like, maybe it wasn't a compliment. Maybe they were really telling me, hey, chill out. You're a little bit insane over this. But what happened was I worked with a trainer, nutritionist, and then I ended up switching coaches and tried some different, tried a different approach, I guess. And that approach was no carbs, like at all. It was basically a ketogenic diet. And I remember even adding up my calories one day. I just decided to go on Calorie King and throw in what I was eating. And on my low days, which was 90% of the time, I was getting about 900 calories. And on my high days, and I'm making little finger quotes, my high days were 1,100. And I was working out 7 days a week doing cardio, and then working out, about 5 days lifting. And so I was obviously expending a lot of energy, eating hardly anything, and zero carbs. And in the back of my mind, I train people. I never, ever put my clients through that. I knew it wasn't great, but, you get in that mindset of, well, I can handle this. It's just temporary, and this is what you have to do to be a champion. And so I did it, and it was probably the biggest mistake of my life, because my last show, I finally said, okay, this is enough. I need my carbs. I'm good with them. I never have been carb sensitive. And so I decided to get back on the carb wagon, and I didn't go crazy. I wasn't one of those people that binges after shows and gets cakes and all that. The very next morning after my show, I decided just to add back in a little bit. I had half a cup of oats, 4 ounces of sweet potato. Mind you, this was measured exactly. I mean, everything was measured on a food scale. 4 ounces of protein, 1 cup of vegetables. Everything was measured. So 4 ounces of sweet potato, half cup of oats. The next day I had gained 8 pounds. And I was like, this makes no sense. I'm like, how is that possible? So then, of course, I go, oh, I must be carb sensitive. Maybe I can't eat carbs anymore. So I took them out. I lost a few pounds, and I'm like, no, I can't handle this. I'm hungry and cranky. So I added it back in, same thing, same amount, half cup of oats. Blew up again, gained another few pounds. So now I'm up 12 pounds. And it was this up and down, where I started just struggling mentally, physically. I'm going, I take it away, maybe I lose 4, and then I gain 8, and then lose 4, gain 8. So I'm just incrementally going up and down until I gained about 30 pounds. All within about 2 months, and mind you, still doing an hour, sometimes 2 hours of cardio a day, eating super strict, and working out, working my butt off. And all I could sit there thinking was, man, I've got these clients that are dropping tons of weight. They're eating more than me, and they're having cheat meals, and they're eating junk. And I felt like I can't eat anything. I can't eat anything because I'll gain. And I was trapped in my own body, not knowing what's wrong. And it didn't make sense. And I went to doctors. And then, of course, they go, well, if you're gaining weight, you just need to eat less and exercise more. And I remember this one doctor, I literally left bawling. I wanted to punch him in the freaking face. And I'm I can tell you everything I've been eating for the last 2 years. It's documented, it's weighed, it's measured, and I bet it's cleaner than anything you've ever had in your life. And you're telling me to eat less and exercise more? I'm how many more hours a day can I exercise? I got to have a life. And so it was so frustrating. And it sucks, especially at the time. I mean, at the time, oh my gosh, it was I was to the point where I'm suicidal because I couldn't handle it. I was embarrassed to be a trainer because I'm thinking, man, my clients are taking advice from me. I'm the person who's telling them how to lose weight, and yet it was obvious that I was gaining weight. They're probably going, man, what is she doing on the side, And so all these things in my head, my identity was so wrapped up in this, and also my identity was wrapped up in looking so fit. And when you when you look that way, people notice, people comment. They're constantly like, wow, you look good. How do you do that? How do you get abs? And then suddenly you're not getting those comments because you're gaining all this weight and you have no idea what they're thinking. Of course, your mind is, going crazy what
negative
they're thinking. Yeah, and so now looking back, it was a blessing in disguise because it made me really step back and go, okay, what do I know about food, nutrition, hormones, and what's happening with my body, and what did I do? And I kind of had to really sit back and basically reverse my thinking. And it was interesting when I finally came out about it. I just got really frustrated one night. A girl had texted me, hadn't talked to her in about a year, and she had been with my same trainer. And she just finished a show, and the same thing happened to her. She gained like 12 pounds within a day or two. And so she texted me really upset, and I got so mad. I'm like, gosh, this is happening to other people. And so I pulled out my computer, and I made this video. I actually reshot it like 6 times because I kept crying through the whole thing. And I posted that video, and it was one of my highest viewed videos, and I got hundreds of emails from people saying, oh, my gosh, that happened to me. I'm so embarrassed I haven't told anybody. And just girls that have disappeared off of the scene because they're so embarrassed they think it's all them. And so it's been a really interesting journey to get back. And I'll tell you right now, that was 4 years ago, almost. No, it was a full 4 years ago. Yeah, it was 4 years ago. And I'm still dealing with the consequences of it, unfortunately. And it's a long, long journey back, and it's frustrating. It's expensive because I went to so many doctors, and, they tell you stupid things like eat less, exercise more, because they don't get it. They're used to the normal Americans who just eat, crap and don't do anything, not like, athletes.
Yeah.
And so it's a really interesting thing, and we need to get more education out there. We need doctors to know what's happening. We need naturopaths to know what's happening, and just become more aware, and even just have the sport be more aware of what's happening, and coaches to know what they're doing to their clients' bodies.
Exactly. Thanks for sharing that story. I think a lot of people can relate. There's a lot of nuggets that you left in there. I think the first nugget at the very beginning was the fact that it's important to have goals. Like you said, like you're paralyzed, which is terrible. But having those goals kept you moving in the right direction, kept you moving forward. And another thing I'd like to say about a comment you made at the very beginning was you said that looking back, you think that people actually thought you were crazy. And I think you're probably right on that partially, but I think a lot of that is that people are actually kind of intimidated or jealous that they don't have that determination, that willpower to commit to, a diet that, like you were on. And I think that's kind of how since they are intimidated by that, then they say, oh, what are you doing all that for? Why are you so weird and eating, counting all these calories or whatever? And I think part of that is just intimidation, but part of it is probably they think you're crazy. But I think part of it is that they feel like that they couldn't do that, so they just want to bring you down kind of deal. But yeah, I really like how you told your whole story about how you're counting exact calories, and you gain all those pounds in one day after eating a little bit of carbohydrates. And one of my questions was going to be, how are you feeling now? You said it's been 4 years. How are you feeling now in relation to before you ever started any of this, in relation to at your lowest point?
It's such a good question and ironic timing because it's been a roller coaster. So I definitely, compared to my lowest, I'll tell you kind of where my lowest was. It was a few months, maybe about 8 months after that competition, because what happened was it was November, so I had the holidays. I tried to let loose a little bit, but then I was going to do a bodybuilding.com spokesmodel competition, so I had to get back on stage. And I got back on stage, and I was about 9 pounds heavier than I had ever been, and it was hard for me. I was embarrassed, but I'm like, this was my dream to work for bodybuilding.com. So I did what I could, and then there was another bodybuilding.com thing. So it was just like, it was this nonstop. It was my last competition, but I still had more things coming up and more events and the Arnold and things I had to look good for. So I was still struggling, but I was going on stage with extra weight on me. And finally, after and actually, it was about 10 months later, because it was after the Olympia of 2010, I finally said, I can't do this. I remember driving to the gym. I sat in the parking lot, and I just started bawling. I did not want to go in there. I'm like, I cannot work out. This is, like, dreadful. And I felt like, oh, my gosh, you have to. You've already gained this weight. You can't not work out. But I just was like, I couldn't. So I sat there. I cried. I turned around and went home. The next day, went back to the gym, cried, and went home. Then I went back to the gym. I went in, and I went in to pick up some weights, like 5 pounds, and it felt so heavy, and I could barely do, like, lateral raises. And so I did a couple. I did, like, 3 or 4, and I was like, oh, I can't do this. So then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do chest. And then I go lay down and did a couple chest presses, and it felt so heavy, and I was like, forget it. I'm just going to do cardio and then go home. So I go get on the stairs, and I could do, like, I used to be able to do level 10 and just bust it out and be, like, dancing and go, go, go. I put on level 5, and I just kept having to stop and catch my breath. And then I put on level 3 and stop and catch my breath. And then finally, maybe like 6 minutes of that, I just said, forget it, shut the thing off, and I laughed crying again. And it was like my mind wasn't in it, but physically I could no longer do it. Like, my body just was shutting down. I just couldn't lift weights. I was out of breath on level 5. Like, that was just basically a slow pace for me. And I'm just like, man, this is, not working. And I remember going home, and I would want to take a nap every afternoon from, like, 1 o'clock. And I'd try to take a nap for an hour, and then I wouldn't wake up till 4. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, I slept for 3 or 4 hours. And so I finally just decided, it's kind of a funny thing how it all worked out, but I just one day said, F it. I'm going to get fat anyway. I might as well enjoy it. So I'm just going to stop working out, and I'm going to eat whatever the hell I want. So I just went and bought candy. I bought pizza. I drank alcohol, and I quit going to the gym. And I was like, I'm done. I'm going to blow up. So here we go, going out with a bang. And the funny thing is instantly when I made that shift, I stopped gaining weight. It was like, I maybe gained like 2 or 3 more pounds, but then that was it. I just leveled off. I didn't gain any more. And it was so funny. I remember one night in particular, I ate this giant bowl of spaghetti. Like, I hadn't had spaghetti in probably 10 years. Giant bowl of spaghetti at like 10 p.m. And I remember getting up and weighing myself, and the next day I lost like 2 pounds. And I just laughed. I'm like, this is so stupid. I've been so strict, busting my ass, and gaining weight every morning. And now I eat a bowl of spaghetti at 10 o'clock at night, like carbs at night. Like, that's the worst thing ever, right? And I lose 2 pounds. So I was like, holy crap, this is it. Like, I need to eat more. My body needs it, and I need to rest. This is what my body needs. And it turned me into, like, really listening to what I need, not what I think I should be doing, which is a hard thing for a type A person, because you think you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you need to get to the gym. And so I had to just stop. And, of course, the stopping started with me just, like, doing a bird, F you to the world. I'm just going to go out with a bang and just gain 300 pounds. But then I was like, oh, wait, I didn't gain 300 pounds. I actually stopped gaining weight. So I did that for a while. I finally got that out of my system. And actually, once I kind of let myself eat the chocolate and drink and eat the pizza, suddenly I wasn't having the cravings anymore. And it was like, once it was allowed, I no longer really wanted it. And I met with Dr. Jade that you and I had actually talked about. Jade helped me out with some supplements and getting my adrenals back on track. And I started doing really, really well. Things turned around in a big way. And unfortunately, because of my personality, I took that as, all right, cool, I'm better. I'm going to get back to just go, 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 go. And I started traveling a lot and, just going, staying up late, and then bam, hit a wall again. And same thing, like my weight, I had started losing weight just naturally, and then all of a sudden weight loss stopped. I started needing naps again, all of this kind of stuff, and I realized I'm so sensitive to stress. And this just happened again like 2 months ago, so I started resting again. And then just 2 months ago, I went on this trip, and unfortunately, it had some really bad layovers, cancellations. I had these 2 really, really long travel days, like over 24 hours I was awake. And it just knocked me down for like a month and a half. And so I realize now I am super, super, super sensitive to stress, whether it's emotional stress or physical stress, traveling, exercise. So my last workout was March 12th, and it's May now, so I haven't worked out in 2 months because my body's just like, nope, working out is not good for you right now. And it's been more hard mentally than physically, because mentally I think of where I should be and where I want to be, and I'm noticing that I can't burn both ends of the candle. You know, I can't keep burning both ends and expecting my body's going to perform how it should. So I've really learned the necessity of rest, recovery, and and keeping on top of those supplements that I was taking. I just thought once I felt better, I didn't need them anymore. Well, my body still needed the support, and I think once you get yourself into this deep, deep situation and deep hole, you really have to be careful, because it's very easy to go back. It's kind of like if you have a cut and you rip the scab off and it keeps bleeding, and then it scabs over and you pick the scab off, it's going to bleed again. You have to wait until it fully heals. Like, you don't just keep picking off the scab, and that's kind of what I was doing. So I'm like way steps ahead better than where I was at the end, like at my worst point. However, I've definitely taken some steps back. I mean, it's been like 5 steps forward, 2 steps back, 5 steps forward, 2 steps back. So all in all, I'd still say I'm like 15 steps forward, but it's something I have to maintain and just watch and really be diligent about.
Yeah, I think adrenal fatigue is one of those things that is like, it's controversy. Is it real? Is it not real? And it's funny to me because I've had adrenal fatigue myself, and I'm still kind of trying to recover from it. And it's hard for someone that's never had it before to relate to someone that has. Yeah. But it's a definite thing that's real. I mean, if it's happening to you, you can tell a definite, before all this stuff happened and then after, and how, like you just were explaining, how stuff that didn't used to affect you are now, wiping you out. And that's, it's a definite, sign that something's going on. And I've had the same thing, and I'm still trying to recover myself. In your story about the calories, about not eating anything and then going back and eating, spaghetti is kind of like the whole point of like my site. And that's that women and people are going on these diets where, like you said before, you're eating 900 calories and thinking it's a high calorie day or something. And my whole argument is, what if you could lose weight and be in shape and have the body you wanted, eating 2 to 3 times that amount? And I think it's possible. And if you know what you're doing, I think it's possible. And instead of just starving yourself all the time down to pretty much basically nothing, I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can supply your body with the energy and calories it needs and still get the results that you want. Thank you for
I completely agree with all of that philosophy, because I think if you train your body to eat and maintain at a certain amount, then it gets used to that. So my philosophy with my clients is like, I hate when people come in and they're like, oh, I'm going to do a 1,200 calorie diet. And I'm going, well, great, you're going to lose some weight at first, but then when you plateau, what do? You have to lower that to 1,100 and then 900. And then when you decide to actually, you're just sick of eating 900 and you eat 1,200 again, you're going to gain. I would rather start you off at 2,000, get your body used to like 2,000 calories, even if you don't lose the first few weeks. If you're just maintaining at 2,000, you're freaking awesome. Then you can pull out a little bit and you'll be able to lose weight at like 1,900, and then you're eating a lot of food. You're getting what you need. So I think and also, just calories in general, it's such a tricky part, because there's so many things with that where I was so nervous about fat. I remember when I was a teenager, I would look at, so funny, when nutrition facts, they didn't always used to be on food labels, and then probably sometime in the 90s they started.
Yeah.
And I would look at the back of everything, and if it had fat, I wouldn't eat it. So I thought I would choose a Skittles over Kit Kat, because Kit Kats had fat and Skittles didn't. And literally, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, these are healthy, they have no fat, right? How silly. Yeah. And now I'm going, oh, man, the Kit Kat would have been better. Like, at least I had some fat. It would have kept me full, and the chocolate probably would have been better for me. So we get these weird things in our head of, like, what's a certain number of calories? Like, we have to hit this certain number, and that's going to make all the difference. Well, 1,800 calories of meats and proteins and chicken and veggies is completely different than 1,800 calories of, Skittles.
Exactly.
And it's going to do something completely different in your body. So we have to let go of this, calorie thing and even fats. Like, now I eat or drink a tablespoon of coconut oil, which is just straight fat, every single day. And I will just, intentionally eat fat. That was one of the things for healing, is I started eating, whole eggs cooked in butter, not just doing the egg whites because I was like, oh, I can't get the extra fat. I need the protein but not the fat. That's a lot of stuff we need to just kind of let go of and just go for more whole foods, real foods. Worry more about where your food's coming from than the number that it's attached to.
Exactly. And Danny, I watched some of your videos on YouTube, and you said that for your recovery, the 3 tips that you gave the listeners or the viewers was to eat more carbs, to exercise none, and to reduce stress. And those 3 things kind of sound crazy for people that, work out and are trying to get in shape. Can you explain those 3 things a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So I think a lot of times we get in a situation because we stopped eating carbs. You need carbs for your brain function, for energy. Carbs are not the enemy. Now, sometimes when we go that long without eating them, we become more carb sensitive, and we get, we can almost put ourselves in a diabetic state, which I almost did terribly. So you may need to introduce carbs back in more slowly, but it's super important that your body knows how to use them, and there's just a lot of body functions that we need them for. There's a reason that we have carbs, proteins, and fats. Those are building blocks. All of them build something else. They make neurotransmitters. They make just things that your body needs to function, brain function. I mean, a lot of reason I think so many people who are in the situation are depressed or anxious is because they're not getting carbohydrates to make neurotransmitters and to make other things that help with your serotonin and your GABA and all of that, and dopamine. So more carbs is super crucial. If you still have the carb fear, eat them more in the morning, even though obviously you can eat carbs at night and still not die. It's been proven for generations. People don't die eating carbs at night. Exercise less. Here's the thing with that. That was a hard one for me because I love exercise, but it's a stress on the body, especially when your body's already stressed. So when you're raising up your heart rate and you're getting your adrenaline going, you're just increasing your cortisol more, and it's just making it worse. So if you need to get moving, do yoga, walk, something restorative that your body can kind of just relax, I guess. And I know that was a hard one for me, and it's a hard one for a lot of the girls I talk to, and guys too. We can talk about that, but mostly I talk with women, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't not go to the gym. I say, just stop going for 2 weeks. Just promise me 2 weeks. Nothing, you're not going to die in 2 weeks. I say 2 weeks. In my head, I'm like, they really need at least 2 months. But I'm thinking if I could get them to stop for 2 weeks, then maybe by the end of the 2 weeks they might start feeling better and go, okay, I can take a little longer. But at that point where they're so manic and trying to get this off right away, they're not going to be open to not going to the gym. And the other one was reducing stress. I mean, that's just part of not going to the gym. You got to get rid of the stress in your life, physical, emotional. Sometimes it's a job. I mean, I will tell some people, I'm so lucky that I worked as a trainer and I kind of had a flexible schedule. I don't know what I would have done if I had to show up to an 8 to 5 job because I spent so much time sleeping. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I just had to. And I have some people that have mentioned they teach Group X classes. They're like, well, I teach, they get in this situation because they teach 20 classes a week. I'm like, you need to take a break. You need to find a sub. You're not going to make money for a couple weeks, but guess what? If you don't do it, you're going to end up in the hospital. So you better just take a break now. Yeah. And do less, stop working out with the class. Just talk. Tell them what to do, but you don't need to do the whole class with them.
Yeah.
So, and I think, a big one for me too is sleep. I think we need to really get more sleep and sleep on time. That was a really big one.
Yeah, I think sleep's probably one of the most important things. Well, Danny, thank you so much for spending time with us today. If the listeners want to get in contact with you, what can they where can they go and what can they do?
Yeah, definitely. If you want to get in contact with me, I am on Facebook at Facebook/The Sweaty Betties, and then all my other tags are Sweaty Betties. So Twitter at Sweaty Betties, Instagram at Sweaty Betties, and then you can also email me at thesweatybetties@gmail.com. I do try to get to those. I will say, I get a little slammed sometimes, and I save and I read every message, that's for sure. And I know some of the ones that just tug at me, I try to message back and give as many tips as possible to help out. So the biggest thing I think is just be open to it. You can. The one thing about adrenal fatigue is it can take a long time, as you know. I was just talking to a doctor, and she said it'll probably take 2 years for your adrenals to heal. And I'm like, when you're starting off, you're like, I don't have 2 years. But here I am 4 years later, and I'm like, man, I wish I had just been more responsive 2 years ago instead of having it take 4 years, because you're trying to be stubborn and beat the system, and it just doesn't work that way. So you got to be patient and know, you got yourself into something. The faster that you take the steps to correct it, like the quicker you stop working out, start sleeping, add the carbs in, the quicker you're going to heal. If you keep fighting it, it's just going to take that much longer.
Yep, I agree 100%. And Danny, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was nice to be on here.
I hope you enjoyed that episode with Danny. It was stories like Danny's that had me questioning everything as it related to weight loss and the calories in, calories out mentality. I knew if there was one person like this, there had to be others, and it is my belief that people like this aren't being helped by telling them to eat less and exercise more. In fact, giving this type of person that advice could make things worse. That is why I think it's important to find like-minded people that have an open mind when it comes to health complaints that don't improve with traditional recommendations. That is why I created the WHAM Fam. The WHAM Fam stands for the Weight Loss and Muscle Building Family and is the free membership over at calorieconundrum.com. This membership gives you access to podcast transcripts, bonus interviews, free webinars, free health and fitness challenges, special discounts, and access to the free WHAM Fam Facebook group. I will be uploading a few old episodes like this one, where the sound quality isn't the best, but the information is still high quality. I hope you will join our weight loss and muscle building family. And with that said, this is Coach Strick saying thanks for listening. And remember, when calories in, calories out doesn't work, that, my friend, is a calorie conundrum.
This podcast, including Coach Strick and guests, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects for the use of any information contained herein. Coach Strick and or guests may recommend products or services in which they have a direct or indirect financial interest. To find out more, please visit www.calorieconundrum.com.